morning, Spirit of life and love, Spirit of humanity, great mystery unnamed. Light this day of reverence so that we can see, as children, the everyday miracles around us.
From How Many, How Much by Shel Silverstein. How many slams in an old screen door? Depends how loud you shut it. How many slices in a bread? Depends on how thin you cut it. How much good inside a day? It depends on how good you live them. How much love inside a friend? Depends on how much you give them. Welcome to this place where wisdom can be heard in simple words and common speech. Good morning and welcome. I'm Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs. And I'm speaking to you now from the land that is the traditional territory of the indigenous Iowa people. Whenever you hear a land acknowledgement, please consider donating at least $1 to programs and services created by or supporting local indigenous people. We do ask that you keep your microphones muted throughout the service, but at the end of the service, you're welcome to turn them on and everyone can join us in an online coffee hour. May today be filled with love.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. I'm Meg Notch, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. No matter who you are or where you've come from, you're welcome here. Whether you live in Des Moines or not, or have ever physically been at the Unitarian Church here. When I stumbled in to the First Unitarian Church I'd been to in 2001, I was ready to be offended at any turn. I had written off church and decided that I'd never be back to any kind of church whatsoever. And I was so pleasantly surprised to find the community that loved me, accepted me, and didn't offend me, even though I was ready at every turn for that to happen. Whoever you are, we hope that you will also find thoughts here that will challenge you, people that will welcome you, invitations into community, and people to accompany you on your journey. Our gathering song this morning is number 123, Spirit of Life. We're going to sing it through 3 times. This morning, the words will be on the screen. Just keep your mics muted and sing along at home.
That was one. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
My offering words are provided this week with my normal seriousness because giving should never hurt. These are actual church bulletin announcements. Don't let worry kill you. Let the church help. Thursday night potluck supper, prayer and medication to follow. Remember in prayer the many who are sick of our church and community. For those of you who have children and don't know it, we have a nursery downstairs. This being Easter Sunday, we will ask Mr. Vasilius to come forward and lay an egg on the altar. The ladies of the church have cast off clothing of every kind, and they may be seen in the church basement on Friday. At the evening service tonight, the sermon topic will be, "What is hell?" Come early and listen to our choir practice. The 1991 Spring Council Retreat will be held May 10 and 11. Pastor is on vacation. Massages can be given to the church secretary. Mrs. Johnson will be entering the hospital this week for testes. The senior choir invites any member of the congregation who enjoys sinning to join the choir. And last but not least, the associate minister unveiled the church's new tithing campaign last Sunday. I upped my pledge, up yours. We don't have a tithing campaign, so the morning offering will now be given and received through a link in the chat. One half of this electronic plate goes to internal social justice programs of the church, and one half to our current Faith in Action partners, Planned Parenthood and Central Iowa Immigrant Support Coalition, and those will be changing very soon. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bruce. That was wonderful. And thank each and every one of you for all the gifts you bring to this community. Church is about community, and we've learned that over and over again lately. We're a community of human hands and human hearts, and we're here to be here for one another whenever we're needed. May we hold in our thoughts and prayers this week anyone who needs us. And I ask now that we share together the names of anyone we know who could use that special love and care this week. As we type their names into the chat, may the love of this community hold them all. May the light of our community shine on all the broken places of the world. May the work of our hands and hearts support and aid and comfort all of those who hunger or thirst for food or water, justice or freedom. May we never look away when we are needed. May those who are grieving be comforted. May those who are tired find rest. May the broken places of the world be healed. I ask especially this week that you all hold in your hearts and minds the people of Afghanistan as that country shudders on the brink of utter disaster. May those who are filled with love and joy and laughter be abundant this week. Together, we light 3 real or virtual candles, one for all the joys and all the sorrows that we share here together, one for the names that we write, and one last candle for all of the joys and all the sorrows that we hold deeply in our hearts, but have not been able to bring into this space here today.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me. Sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul.
Our first reading this morning is from Christmas Morning, from The Velveteen Rabbit by Marjorie Williams. For a long time, he lived in the toy cupboard or on the nursery floor, and no one thought very much about him. He was naturally shy, and being only made of velveteen, some of the more expensive toys quite snubbed him. The rabbit could not claim to be a model of anything, for he didn't know that real rabbits existed. He thought they were all stuffed with sawdust, like himself. And he understood that sawdust was quite out of date and should never be mentioned in modern circles. Between them all, the poor little rabbit was made to feel himself very insignificant and commonplace. And the only person who was kind to him at all was the skin horse. Now, the skin horse had lived longer in the nursery than any of the others. He was so old that his brown coat was bald in patches and showed the seams underneath, and most of the hairs in his tail had been pulled out to string bead necklaces. He was wise, for he had seen a long succession of mechanical toys arrive to boast and swagger, and by break their mainsprings and pass away. And he knew that they were only toys and would never turn into anything else. For nursery magic is very strange and wonderful, and only those playthings that are old and wise and experienced, like the skin horse, understand all about it. What is real? Asked the rabbit one day when they were lying side by side near the nursery fender before Nana came to tidy the room. Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle? Real isn't how you are made, said the skin horse. It's a thing that happens to you. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. Does it hurt? Asked the rabbit. Sometimes, said the skin horse, for he was always truthful. When you are real, you don't mind being hurt. Does it happen all at once? Like being wound up? He asked. Or bit by bit? It doesn't happen all at once, said the skin horse. You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't happen often to people who break easily, or have sharp edges, or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. I suppose you are real, said the rabbit. And then he wished he had not said it, for he thought the skin horse might be sensitive. But the skin horse only smiled.
Flower said, I wish I was a tree. The tree said, I wish I could be a different kind of tree. Cat wished that it was a bee. Turtle wished that it could fly really high into the sky, over rooftops and then dive deep into the sea. And in the sea there is a fish that has a secret wish, a wish to be a big cactus with a pink flower on it. And in the sea there is a fish that has a secret wish, a wish to be a big cactus with a pink flower on it. And the flower would be its offering of love to the desert, and the desert's so dry and lonely that the creatures all appreciate the effort. And the rattlesnake said, I wish I had hands so I could hug you like a man. And the cactus said, don't you understand? My skin is covered with sharp spikes that'll stab you like 1,000 knives. A hug would be nice, but hug my flower with your eyes. The flower said, I wish I was a tree. The tree said, I wish I could be a different kind of tree. The cat wished that it was a bee. The turtle wished that it could fly really high into the sky, over rooftops and then dive deep into the sea. And in the sea there is a fish that has a secret wish, a wish to be
Thank you so much to Sarah Letourneau and Natalie Mason, who did that song, Tree Hugger. This week's thoughts for meditation come from the wisdom of Calvin and Hobbes, words from Bill Watterson. And a lot of you may be familiar with Calvin and Hobbes. If you have never seen that comic strip, it is so worth looking at for the gentle humor of the little boy and his tiger. Bill Watterson created Calvin and Hobbes, which ran as a daily comic strip in syndication from November 18th, 1985 till December 31, 1995. In it, Calvin was 6, and Hobbes was his sardonic striped tiger. The following are actual quotes from the strip, and it reminds us that simplicity and practicality can be a source of both profundity and calm wisdom. So here are some thoughts to think about this week. If you can't control your peanut butter, you can't expect to control your life. If people sat outside and looked at the stars each night, I bet they'd live a lot differently. If your knees aren't green by the end of the day, you ought to seriously re-examine your life. Some days, even my lucky rocket ship underpants don't help. If people could put rainbows in zoos, they'd do it. The best presents don't come in boxes. And my favorite, things are never quite as scary when you've got a best friend. Let's take 1 minute now and enter into a time of silent thought, meditation, or prayer.
Our second reading this morning is an overview of the spoon theory by Christine Miserandino. This is a vocabulary word that some of you may be familiar with and some of you maybe not so much, but the term spoons is used now in different ways to communicate with your friends. So listen up, because this is a vocabulary lesson. Created by this really charming New York woman named Christine Miserandino. The term spoons was coined by Christine Miserandino in 2003 in her essay, The Spoon Theory. While out to eat with a friend, Miserandino's friend began watching her as she took her medication and suddenly asked what it was like to have lupus. When you hear Christine tell this story, she talks about being shocked that that this close friend of hers was asking such a question, because this close friend had seen her, and helped her through this diagnosis and everything for forever. So she was really sort of surprised to get this question. Miserandino grabbed spoons from around the diner where they sat and gave her friend a handful of spoons she had gathered. The spoons helped Miserandino to show the way that people with chronic illness often start their days off with limited degrees of energy. The number of spoons her friends had was how much energy she had to spend throughout that particular day. As Miserandino's friend stated, the different tasks that she completes throughout the day, Miserandino took away a spoon for each activity. She took spoon after spoon, one for getting dressed, one for showering, until her friend eventually only had one spoon left. Her friend then stated that she was hungry, to which Miserandino replied that eating would use another spoon. If she were to cook, a spoon would be needed for cooking. She would have to select her next move wisely to conserve her energy for the rest of the night. Our centering song today is number 391, Voice Still and Small. We will sing it through 2 times. The words will be on the screen. Please keep your mics muted.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing. Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain, singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Thank you so much, Barb and Bruce. So this week and next week, I'm going to be talking about finding wisdom in some places that have some complex relationships for us. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the work of Patrick McManus. And Pat writes very gentle, lovely, family-oriented humor about friends and family and his hunting buddies. But he is connected to a gun and hunting culture that some of us find abhorrent. This week, I'm talking about books written for children, something some of us have not read in years, and others of us have never really bothered with. Why am I doing this? I'm doing it because there are choices. Choices to use what we learn in ways that let us heal brokenness and build connection. Choices that help to make change possible. And one of the choices, the one we're discussing this week, is that we're given the choice to make things simple. Or what we think of as simple anyway. Because let's face it, this is a world where everyone gets told they should go to college. Complexity is often confused with intelligence, or worse, wisdom. In that kind of world, simplicity can be radical. Simplicity can be exactly what you need when the world is complex and even frightening, stressful. Sometimes you just don't have it in you to read a book which, say, explores Freud through the lens of Schleiermacher. Sometimes you don't have it in you to discuss an analytical analysis of existential hormesis related to modern society. Sometimes you don't have it in you. Sometimes you're out of spoons. Sometimes you ran out of spoons last week. But you're still on your journey. You're still working your way through life and thinking and trying. Whether you have COVID brain or exhaustion or stress, doesn't matter why you don't have it in you or why your spoons are gone. This can be hard because we are Unitarian Universalists. We belong to a religion where the standing joke is, would we rather go to heaven or to an academic discussion of heaven with slides and arrows and a PowerPoint? We're all going to the discussion, let's face it. But sometimes simple is all you have the spoons for. Today's source of wisdom, stories written for children, those don't seem like they would be difficult. Children's stories like the Velveteen Rabbit that you heard the longer excerpt from this morning, or The Little Prince, or Where the Wild Things Are, maybe And Tango Makes Three. They were written to help us explain complex ideas to children in ways they can understand. Now, some of us read them to children, our children, others' children. Some of us just picked them up with nostalgia, well, maybe when we see them scattered around at the doctor's office. But we don't tend to search them out. I mean, that would be silly, right? Buying kids' books when we don't have children, or after our children are grown. That's what our brain says. We just walk right by the children's book aisle. But sometimes simplicity and concreteness, like that found in these stories, can reach truth better than anything else. And sometimes it's all we have the energy for, again. And I found this out myself kind of the hard way, because as you may have guessed, I may have a little bit of a hard head. My late sister and I had a challenging relationship growing up. It was filled with sibling rivalry and physical violence, sometimes outright hatred. To be honest, we hit and we bit and we shamed and we threatened and we ratted one another out for fun and profit. And we generally spent no time alone together, even as teenagers or young adults. She was 20 months younger than me, but 4 years behind me in school. And we were quite clear throughout our entire childhood. We knew how this went. I was ugly and she was stupid. And we shared that with each other frequently. We knew that. So when we grew up, after one last fabulous fight in a parking lot, for heaven's sake, we sat down together and said, we got to work this out. We're 18 and 20 years old. We got to work this out. And so together we explored what it meant to be adopted and what it meant that I had spiral curly hair that I had to straighten and that I turned brown in the sun and that she was probably Norwegian. What did it mean that she was dyslexic and I could read easily? And we talked about how we saw one another as children and now. And of course, as I was then and am now perfect in every way, I didn't get it. I didn't get what she was trying to tell me about how I made her feel. Maybe you do that sometimes. You hear what someone is trying to tell you about their feelings, and you go, oh no, surely not. How ridiculous. I mean, I couldn't have hurt your feelings that bad, right? Or maybe you try to share your feelings with someone, you try to talk to them, and they just don't seem to get it. Well, that happened to us, and weeks went by after our coffee sit down, and then she found a children's book called Julius, the Baby of the World by Kevin Hankes. And I didn't know she had actually bought it. She didn't have any children yet. Until I came over a few nights later and I saw a bookmark stuck between 2 pages. And of course, being a jerk, I said, why? Why do you need a bookmark when the book is 12 pages long? And I thought I was very, very funny. Almost as funny as I had been when we were kids. And she gave me a look, and some of you may know the look. It goes, and she said, it's 32 pages, and I need a bookmark because I'm thinking about it. And I started laughing. And she very calmly picked up this book and showed me the marked page and let me read what the older sister, whose name was Lily, had said to the baby, whose name was Julius. Lily was reading him a story she had written and had read at school to her friends. This is the story. This is what Lily wrote. Julius, the germ of the world by me, said Lily. Once upon a time, there was a baby. His name was Julius. Julius was really a germ. Julius was like dust under your bed. If he was a number, he would be 0. If he was a food, he would be a raisin. 0 is nothing, and a raisin tastes like dirt. The end, said Lily. And I got it. I got it. Suddenly, everything she had been trying to tell me in academic words about how I made her feel, I got it. Not in some deep academic way up here, but in a visceral gut punch. Would it help if I said you weren't a raisin anymore? I asked, and then I burst into tears. No complex situation is going to be magically solved by sharing a Sesame Street Baby Elmo book. We all know this. But in Elmo Saves Christmas, a book for 3-year-olds, Elmo's given one wish, anything he wants, and he wishes for a glass of water. And when he is asked why, he says, "Because I was thirsty." We forget this as a denomination, as a planet sometimes. If we want to make a difference in the world, and we want to invite people to join us, it's a great idea to remember that Baby Elmo book. It's a great idea to remember Baby Elmo from Sesame Street, because nobody is going to wish for world peace if all they can think about is how thirsty they are. Sometimes addressing the simple problems before you tackle the big issues matters, and sometimes it's all you have the spoons for. Now, this can be challenging if you're like me. I like complexity. A lot of us like academic answers, and we like debate and discussion. We like measured and reasoned understanding of any point. We like academic and reasonable responses. And most of the time it works until it doesn't. And then we're left hopelessly staring at someone who's having an emotional, heart-based response to a thing. It works until the world is enmeshed in struggle and we have no more energy. It works until we're talking to someone who doesn't speak our language or doesn't have the same vocabulary or the same education. Sometimes we need Baby Elmo to talk to each other. It works when we're struggling across political and socioeconomic divides, even among our own families. Sometimes academia isn't there for us. Sometimes we need Baby Elmo. Economist E.F. Schumacher once said, "Any intelligent fool can make things bigger, more complex, and more violent. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction." Albert Einstein is famous for saying, "If you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself." Our own beloved Thoreau said, "I do believe in simplicity. It is astonishing as well as sad how many trivial affairs even the wisest thinks they must attend to in a day, how singular an affair they think they must omit. When the mathematician would solve a difficult problem, he first frees the equation of all encumbrance, reduces it to its simplest terms. So simplify the problem of life. Distinguish the necessary and the real. Probe the earth to see where your main roots run. True simplicity is absolutely compelling. If you get time today, Google and take a look at the line art works of Picasso. Picasso did a series of line art works: a woman, a camel, a dog, a bird. Each of them is done only in black on white, one line. They are all vibrantly alive, no shading, no added color. One line in all its perfect simplicity becomes not what a camel looks like, but the very essence of camelness, if you will. I think Baby Elmo would highly approve. Life is busy. Life is often tiring. Wisdom is where you find it. And I find it amazing. I find it to be such a joy that even when we're exhausted, even when our spoons are gone, even when we don't have the energy to read books of philosophy or theology or learned thought, we can still find wisdom. We can still find information to feed our minds and our hearts. It's like finding a protein bar when all you thought was there was cotton candy. So if you were a little too busy to learn everything you needed to know in kindergarten, I want to give you some profound words. And every one of these is from a children's book or a comic book or a cartoon. It's from Winnie the Pooh. You're braver than you believe and stronger than you seem and smarter than you think. I love that. From Avatar, The Last Airbender, you must never give in to despair. Allow yourself to slip down that road and you surrender to your lowest instincts. In the darkest time, hope is something you give yourself. This is the meaning of inner strength. That's a children's cartoon. From SpongeBob SquarePants. Sometimes we have to go deep inside ourselves to solve our problems. This is a talking sponge. And from Teen Titans. There will always be people who say mean words because you're different. And sometimes their minds cannot be changed. There are many more people who do not judge others based on how they look or where they're from. Those are the people whose words truly matter. As you build your own theology and you work for change in the world, take the time to stop by the children's section of the bookstore or the library. See what the books have to say in their clear and simple language about the issues you're wrestling with. You may not get it exact, but take a look. You may be surprised. Take an evening off and watch some cartoons sometime. And then turn it around. Turn it around on yourself. Examine your conclusions and your theology. Examine our congregation's mission and vision as if you had to explain them to a 6-year-old. What would you say? How would you tell them in simple, direct words what it is you believe and are trying to see in the world? How would you explain yourself? A friend once said to me, if you have to use more than 2 multi-hyphenates, you probably have no idea what you are doing. I like that. Sometimes simple words say it best. Sometimes simple words can build bridges, and they are all we need to begin. Simple words like, come on, join us. I love you. Welcome in. Won't you be my neighbor? Amen.
Carry this chalice into the world in the light of your eyes and the glow of your hearts, and seek out the simple. Our final song today is number 16, 'Tis a gift. The words will be in the chat screen. Oh, nope, the words will be on the screen. Please keep your mics muted. Sing along at home.
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to calm down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed to turn will be a delight, till by turning, we come round right.
The service has finished, but our time for service has just begun. Go out and cherish the wisdom of the simple and the direct. Embrace the miraculously mundane and the routinely holy. Peace, ashe, and may it be so.